for a long time, for me, the definition of success was quite misplaced. Uh, I never explored the reason why we made movies. So it was, for me, it was like, say an ad campaign. So a
Right.
project comes to you, you run that campaign, and you move on to another campaign. So there was no sense of emotional investment into your narrative, into your story, and until I failed and I failed and I failed. Sometimes some of my films were successful, so I made money, but I kept failing as a director, and I could feel that somewhere inside I could not articulate it for myself until I stumbled upon a story which I just wouldn't let go of. I mean, I was telling some friends just the other day that I had all these stories. I have had these stories for the longest time, but I didn't know these were movies. So there were times when I've gone to producers or to actors and said, "Let's make this film," and they would say, "No, no, Anubhav, let's make an action film," no. Which was much easier for me to sort of set up. So there was Sanju at beck and call. There was Ajay Devgan available to me, and so I kept making those films. So then Mulk happened as a story which I felt very strongly about, and I just didn't let go of that film, despite the fact that a lot of people kept telling me that nobody will watch it, nobody wants to see this film, nobody will give you the money, nobody will act in it. But this time, probably I flipped and I said, no, I will make this film.
Pre Me Too, I honestly did not think things are so bad. And it's almost like, in Bengali, there's a saying called "Kan tanle matha beroy," which is, when once you pull the ear, the whole head comes out. And it almost seemed like that, like you pulled out the tail of it, and there was this huge monster. And either I was living under a rock, because I mean, one would hear fleeting stories like one or two things, but I actually didn't think it was this bad. And once the cases started coming out, it felt like, oh my God, who else is? I mean, there were hardly, you could count the people who are not guilty of, all kinds of, not just assault, which is the extreme case, but also just general sexism and the whole status quo. And it felt like everyone, like, who's not involved. And it felt like something needs to be done right now. And especially when the videos came out, and when Tanushree video came out especially, we were all shaken. I mean, the fact that this had happened and nobody did anything about it. uh, so from that point onwards till now, I have sort of tried to make decisions in terms of work, keeping that in mind. So once I know, and now that I know certain people who had been involved and have been guilty, um, I don't work with them. And it's a very, very, very conscious decision. There's a casting director, there's a couple of casting directors who also got named out and called out, and I haven't, and I don't wish to also audition with them, and I'm okay to lose out on work, and I'm okay to not. Um, so compromising on that is never an option for me. But having said that, when you look around, the directors who have been at the forefront are still working. And again, then it's a longer debate, and some people are like, so will you ostracize them for life? Now, that's not for me to that. I'm not going to bear that cross, and I don't know. But I'm not comfortable with working with somebody who has been proven guilty. And and it actually, honestly, really annoys me to know that people are still working. And I mean, there are people. I mean, names, again, if I don't want to name people, but I mean, all of us, I think, know the names. And recently, in fact, I got offered a few shows and film, and I was like, listen, how can you even ask me? Because you should know my politics. And I told my management to tell them, to not tell them, like, to exactly state why I'm saying no to it. In fact, my friend who's a casting director, I told him, of course I can't do it. And he was like, yeah, I well knew it, but still I had to ask. So I was like, can you please tell the director that I'm not doing the film because of this reason? And he's like, no, but I have a career. You might not. So, I mean, again, everyone's trying to do the best that they can, but I don't think in India it's really made a difference, and it breaks my heart to say it. I think people are still working, people have still, everything becomes news for a reason, and it's noise, and after maybe 6 months or so it just becomes old news, and there's a new sensation that sort of takes everyone's attention, and then it's okay, it's like shoved under the carpet, and that's about it, and unless and until you collectively take a stand, it's not going to change.
The other day, I was speaking to somebody, and this is a millennial, and she was seeing Godfather for the first time. And she said she found it amazing that there were practically no women in the movie and they had no agency. And I was like, wow, you guys see movies so differently, because this is a mafia family. And, that's that's what it is. That's like these women are kept in the periphery of all the male decisions. That is point of the movie. That is the whole construct of the movie. Now over there, if you're going to start saying there are no women, or there are no important women parts or something like that, I'm saying that you should judge how well women are written, men are written, children are written, based on what that particular story is, rather than assume that every movie has to follow certain tests or rules or whatever it is, because each story is different, each storyteller is different, and within that particular time when you've got to tell something, you may not always have time to give every shade to every character that you want. So the point is whether the story and the characters stand out, they are convincing, they're true, rather than whether they're following the Bechdel test or whatever it is what I feel.
And so I think hype is a very dangerous thing, and one of the things about a lipstick or a parched, those are films that they are what they are, and they are going to continue what they are. They don't need that initial wave of hype to sell them. And so people are going to see them 5, 10, 15 years down the line and still understand where those films are coming from. Whereas I think, those big superhero movies, which are in completely a different league of their own, you cannot compare them to anything else, are just so borne up on this wave of hype, expectation, fan expectation, marketing budget, things like that. But they almost don't have to be about anything. So yeah, Black Panther cast lots of African American actors, and it ticked all the boxes for representation. In terms of a narrative, I like you, Baddy, I found it not a million miles away from any other Marvel movie. And it makes me a little bit sad when I hear people cheering the fact that Barry Jenkins, who did Moonlight, is now doing a Lion King sequel for Disney, because that's where the money is. I don't want to see Barry Jenkins doing a Lion King movie. I want to see what Barry Jenkins does after Moonlight. I want to see his small personal movie that he can't get the money for. And you could make 27 Moonlights or 27 Parched from the from the budget of one Wonder Woman, and that's why those movies break my heart, because I'm sitting there watching them thinking there are 30 smaller independent movies that are so much more engaging than, it doesn't matter how big the lasso is. I want a film to touch my heart and touch my mind, and those films generally haven't done it for me.